Wagons came in sight, a little off to the south, like small houses on wheels. Tall wooden boxes, painted and lacquered in violent shades of red and blue and green and yellow, all standing in a large, rough circle around a few broad-limbed oak trees. The music came from there. Perrin had heard there were tinkers, traveling people in the Two Rivers, but he had not seen them until now. Hobbled horses cropped the long grass nearby. "I will sleep elsewhere," Paul said stiffly when he saw Perrin meant to go to the wagons, and loped away without another word. Bain and Chiad spoke softly yet urgently to Fail. Perrin caught enough to know they were trying to convince her to spend the night with them in some snug thicket, and not with the lost ones. They sounded appalled at the idea of speaking to the Tinkers, much less eating or sleeping with them. Fail's hand tightened on his leg as she refused, quietly, firmly. The two maidens frowned at each other, blue eyes meeting gray, with a deep measure of concern.
There we go.
But before the traveling people's wagons came much closer, they trotted away after call. They seemed to have recovered some of their spirits, though. Perrin heard Chiad and induced Gaul to play some game. They were both laughing as they passed out of his earshot. Men and women were working in the camp, sewing, mending harness, cooking, washing clothes and children, levering a wagon up to replace a wheel. Other children ran playing or danced to the tunes, and half a dozen men playing fiddle or flute. From oldest to youngest, the Tinkers wore clothes even more colorful than their wagons, in eye-wrenching combinations that had to have been chosen blindly. No sane man would have worn anything near those hues, and not many women. As the ragtag party approached the wagons, silence fell. People stopped to watch with worried expressions. Women clutching infants and children, running to hide behind adults, peering around a leg or hiding their faces in skirts. A wiry man, gray-haired and short, stepped forward and bowed gravely, both hands pressed to his chest. He wore a bright blue high-collared coat and baggy trousers of a green that almost seemed to glow, tucked into knee boots. "You are welcome to our... Do you know the song?" For a moment, trying not to hunch around the arrow in hand, Perrin could only stare. He knew this man. Seeker of this battle. What chance? What? All the Tinkers in the world, what chance?
Hey, Grum's homies, how you doing, bro?
Coincidences
Hope
made
you're doing well.
When the pattern produced coincidence, the wheels seemed to be forcing events. I'm beginning to sound like a bloody Aes Sedai. He could not manage the bow, but he remembered the ritual. "Your welcome warms my spirit, Ring, as your fires warm the flesh. But I do not know." Fail and Ivan gave him startled looks, but no more than did the Two Rivers men. Judging
Bro,
by
I'm
the
not
letters he
doing
heard
too
from
bad,
Manning
Grum's
telling
homies.
others, he had just given them something else to talk
Same old, just chilling
Then we seek still,
and having a little
the
smoke.
wiry man intoned. "As it was, so shall it be, if we but remember, seek, and find." Grimacing, he surveyed the bloody faces confronting him, his eyes flinching away from the weapons. The traveling people...
Yeah, this might, Grum's homies, this might be
You are welcome
my
to
last
our
live
friends.
till
There will be hot water and bandages and
the
poultices.
till the end of the month,
You
till
know
about
my
the
name.
first, because that's when my
Perrin searchingly.
my time for my free
Eyes.
my 20 hours of StreamYards
His wife had come to his side
goes
as he
away.
spoke.
I'll run out of time anyways.
Gray-haired but smooth-cheeked, a head taller than her husband. Her red blouse and bright yellow skirt.
We got like an
fringed
hour
shawl
left on
jarred the eye,
my free time.
but she had a motherly manner.
Excuse me.
"Here, Ned Barra," she said. "I thought I knew your face. Is Elias with you?" Perrin shook his head. "I have not seen him in a long time.
Damn, that
He
sucks,
leads
Grum's
a life
homies.
of violence."
That's why I like these, because we're low on smoke too, and
A violent
that's
life is
still
stained, even if
about
long.
halfway, and I've had it for
Do not try
about
to
a week.
the way the leaf standing here, Rain.
and you see how I smoke at night on my live, and
He is hurt.
I puff on it throughout the day too.
What am I thinking of? Ray muttered. Raising his voice, he called, "Come, people.
Damn.
Come and help. They are hurt. Come and help." Men and women gathered quickly, murmuring their sympathy.
Yeah, that part sucks, because even after you harvest it, you still gotta wait for it to cure.
Men toward their wagons, carrying them when necessary. Will and a few of the others looked concerned over being separated, but Perrin was not. Violence was the farthest thing from the Tuathalan. They would not raise a hand against anyone, even to defend their own lives. Perrin found he had to accept Ivan's assistance to dismount.
Hell yeah. Especially if you find a good deal at the dispo. Definitely worth it.
He said, a touch breathless. You shouldn't be out here. 5 miles from this spot. Take your people to Emmons Field. They will be safe there. Rain hesitated and seemed surprised at it before shaking his head.
Especially if it smokes good at the dispo.
People would not want it there. We try not to camp very close to even the smallest village. And not only because the villagers may falsely accuse us of stealing whatever they
Oh, is that all you need?
or of trying to convince their children to
Roman's homies?
Where men have built 10 houses together, there is the potential for violence. Since the breaking,
Nice.
Known this,
Especially for that price, you can't beat that.
lies in our wagons, and in always moving, always seeking the song. A plaintive expression came over his face. Everywhere we hear noise, not just here near Two Rivers. There is a feel in the world of change, of destruction. Surely we must find the song soon. Else I do not believe it will ever be.
Hell yeah, Roman's homies.
Perrin said quietly. Maybe they hold violence too much for a Taviran to Maybe even a Taviran could not fight the way of the leaf. It had seemed attractive to him once too.
Pretty much, not much. I just staying inside and
What will be?
out of the heat and
Rain said.
away from people.
All things die in their time. Perhaps even the song.
And then again, there's
Isla put a comforting arm around her husband.
there's not much to do
Her
where I
eyes were
live.
troubled as his.
That's the
She said, trying to hide her illness.
only
We
bad
must
part
get you
about
inside.
living in
Talk
a
of their coats are
small
fine.
town.
To Faye, she
is
said, "You are quite beautiful.
there
child.
not being much to do.
Perhaps you should beware of Perrin. I never see him but in the company of beautiful girls."
Well, somewhat hot.
Faye gave Perrin
It's getting to
considering look.
the
and
high
tried to gloss
80s,
it over quickly. He made it as far as
which
Rain's
really ain't
wagon.
that hot, but
Yellow trimmed in red. with
it's a little
round
warmer than what it's
spokes
been.
and tall red-rimmed wheels.
and then
Red and yellow trunks.
It's just,
lashed to the outside.
prepping us for our
Standing
summer.
beside a cook fire in the middle of
Because
the
our
camp.
summers here get,
But when he put his foot on the first of the wooden steps,
we stay in the
back,
triple digits most of the summer.
Ivan and Rain, more than half.
I think the hottest we
followed
hit
hurriedly by Fail and Isla.
one time
Laid him
was,
on the bed built into the front of the wagon.
I think 115,
Just room to
116.
get by to the sliding door leading to the driver's seat. It
But
truly
most of
was
the time
a
we
little
stay
house, even to pale pink curtains
in like the high 90s, or
He lay there staring.
I
at the
guess you
ceiling.
could say low hundreds.
Here too, the
We usually
temperatures
range
were
about
used to their
103,
colors. The ceiling was
106.
lacquered sky blue. The
Like I said, we got up
cabinets
to
green and yellow.
115 one time, so
Fail unfastened his belt and took away his axe. And quiver,
then it's that dry
while
desert
Isla
heat.
rummaged in one of the cabinets. Perrin could not
Where
see
even if
2
you get a
miles
breeze,
of interest in what they were doing.
It don't feel good. It just hits.
Anyone
feels like
can
you
be
get hit with the
surprised, Ivan
hair
said.
dryer.
Learn from it, but do not take it too much to heart. Not even Arthur Hawkwing won every battle. Arthur Hawkwing. Perrin tried to laugh, but it turned into a groan. Yes, he managed. I am certainly not Arthur Hawkwing, am I? Isla frowned at the warder, or at his sword, rather. She seemed to find that even worse than Perrin's axe, and came to the bed with a wad of folded bandages. Once she had pulled Perrin's shirt away from the arrow stub, she winced.
Yeah, for us to be able to grow outside, we'd need a greenhouse like a shade cloth.
Barbed, Ivan said in a conversational tone. Trollocs do not use bows very often.
Nice.
When they do, the arrows are barbed.
That's why most of our grows that we do
The plump woman said firmly, rounding
is inside,
and you as well,
because
Rain.
I have
Is no business of men.
well, I don't have it. It's my
Why don't you go
brother's
see
old
if
tent.
Marche has that wheel
It's
on
most
his
hated's
wagon
old
yet?
tent. It's a 4x4
A good idea.
that he lets me use with
We
his
may want
light.
to move tomorrow.
And then he
He's
has in
been
his
hard
room,
traveling this last
he
year.
has
He confided to Perrin.
a 4x8
All the
tent.
way to Kyrian, then back again to Gila.
Yeah, we have a yard. We
Then
have a
up and
fenced in
back.
yard.
Tomorrow.
We're trying to make a little space
When the red door shut behind
outside
him,
so we can do at least a couple
Isla
times
turned
out
to
there.
Fayette worriedly. If it is barbed,
Yeah,
do you think
we
I
gotta
can
have a
move
yard.
at all?
We have dogs.
I will try if I must.
Let them outside, run
But if
around.
there is anyone nearby who knows more of such things. There is someone in Emmons Field, Fail assured
No
him.
shit.
But is it safe to leave it in him until tomorrow?
Yeah, my brother, most hated grower, he got the tent I'm using from
Something for him to drink for the
a
pain.
company he ordered out of,
And to poultice
I
against
believe it was
infection.
Canada.
Larry
But what I
agreed.
like about that, the inside,
Hello,
it's not
do you
that
remember me?
that shiny like Mylar look
Stop
like
trying to
most
talk
tents
over my
have.
head.
The inside of the tent that he lets me use is
Keep him still.
it's
I
all
won't
white,
lie you. It is all right to let him talk, but do not allow him to move about.
which I thought was
You
pretty
may
cool
injure
and
yourself more.
pretty unique.
I will see.
'Cause I don't think I really see much grow tents that the inside's all white instead of the shiny Mylar color.
To do most of the work. He felt as weak as the worst wrought iron, ready to bend to any pressure.
If it wasn't from most hated, I wouldn't even have a tent or like to even grow. So
almost atop his last rib, rising from a puckered gash, thick with dried blood. They pushed his head down on a pillow, for some reason not wanting him to look at it. Fail washed Isla prepared her salve with a stone mortar and pestle. Plain, smooth gray stone, the first things he had seen in the Tinker camp that were not brightly colored. They mounted the salve around the arrow and wrapped him with bandages to hold it. Rain and I will sleep tonight. It's what one woman said. Frowning at the arrow stub sticking up from his bandages, she shook her head.
so you just go 20 or 40 of them.
Yes, I thought
Nice.
I might eventually find the way of relief.
Or even
He was
at least
gentle
I would
boy.
consider a 5 or 6 foot one a pretty decent
The way of
size.
relief is not for everyone, Fail said gently. But Isla shook her head again.
'Cause I can't even grow them that
It
big
is
in my
for
grow
everyone,
tent.
she replied, just as gently, and a touch sadly. If they only knew it.
Yeah, our
She left
summers
then,
are
and Fail sat on the
it's
edge
straight
of the bed,
miserable
blotting
for our
his face with a
summers.
folded cloth. He seemed to be sweating a great deal for some reason. I blundered, he said after a time. No, that is too soft. I don't know the right word,
All right, definitely got to grow
You
them
did not
wide instead
love
of
it.
tall.
she said firmly. You did what seemed fitting at the time. It was fitting. I cannot imagine how they got behind us. Gaul is not one to make a
No,
mistake
we
about where his
don't
enemies
squad
are.
guards. We just
Ivan was right there.
well, most hated does
Anyone
most of the
can
work
find
in my tent
circumstances
because
that have
he's
changed when
more
you did not know.
knowledgeable in that area.
You held everyone together.
But
You brought
we
us
do
out.
just a lot of tying
He shook
down.
his head hard and made his side hurt worse. Ivan brought us out. What I did was get 27 men killed, he said bitterly, trying to sit up to face her. Some of them were my friends, Fail. And I got them killed.
Yeah, that's what
Fail threw
most
away on
hated
his
does
shoulders
in
to push him back
his
down.
tent and in my
It
tent
was a measure of his
is
weakness,
tying
he said
down
she
and
felt.
a lot of low stress training.
There will be time enough for that.
Just so we could
she
push
said
him out
firmly,
more
peering
instead
into
of
his face.
since we can't grow
We have to put you back on your horse. Ivan
like
did not bring us out.
tall ones.
I do not think he cared particularly if anyone but you and he did get out. Those men would have scattered in every direction if not for you, and then we'd all have been hunted down. They would not have held together for Ivan, a stranger. As for your friends, sighing, she sat back down again. Perrin, my father says a general can take care of the living or weep for the dead, but he cannot do both. I am not a general, Fail. I am a fool of a blacksmith who thought he could use other people to help him get justice, or maybe revenge. I still want it, but I don't want to use anyone else for it any longer. Do you think the Trollocs will go away because you decide your motives are not pure enough? The heat in her voice made him raise his head, but she pushed it back to the pillow almost roughly. Are they any less vile? Do you need a purer reason to fight them than what they are? Another thing my father says. The worst sin a general can commit, worse than blundering, worse than losing, worse than anything, is to desert the men who depend on him. A tap came at the door, and a slender, handsome tinker in a red and green striped coat put his head in. He flashed a smile at Fail,
Right.
all white teeth and oozing charm, before looking at
Yeah,
him.
my brother does that on certain ones too.
I thought this was where Egwene said she came from.
You know, starting to shit. That sucks, Gromy's homies.
Disapprovingly. Your eyes. I see you have followed Elias after with the wolves. I was sure you would never find the way of the leaf. Aaron knew him. Aram, Rain and Isla's grandson.
Hey, Bastian, how you doing, bro?
He smiled like Will. Go away, Aram. I'm tired. Is Egwene with you? Egwene's Aes Sedai now, Aram, he growled. And she would rip your heart out with the one power if you asked her to dance. Go away. Aram blinked and hastily shut the door, with himself outside. Baron let its head.
I hope everyone's doing well.
Who smiles too much, he muttered. I cannot abide a man who smiles too much. Fael made a choking noise, and he looked at her suspiciously. She was biting her underlip. I have something in my throat, she said in a strangled voice, getting up hastily. She hurried to the wide shelf below the foot of the bed where Isla had prepared her poultice, and stood with her back to him, pouring water from a green and red pitcher into a blue and yellow mug. Would you like something to drink, too? Isla left this powder for the pain. It will help you sleep. I don't want any powder, he said. Fael, who is your father? Her back went very stiff. After a moment, she turned with the mug in both hands, and an unreadable look in her tilted eyes. Another minute passed before she said, My father is Dagram of House Bashir, Lord of Bashir, Tyr, and Sedona, Guardian of the Blight Border, Defender of the Heartland, Marshal General to Queen Tenobia of Saldania, and her uncle. Light! What was all that about him being a wood merchant or a fur dealer? I seem to remember him dealing in ice peppers once, too.
We're part, yeah.
She said sharply. Then in a weaker voice,
We're part native, part Mexican.
the whole truth. My father's estates do produce lumber and fine woods.
Hope you're doing good,
and ice
man.
peppers and furs and more besides.
Arapaho and Apache.
So he does trade.
Oh no, it's Comanche, Arapaho and Comanche that we are.
Why couldn't you just tell me?
And then Mexican.
Hiding things, lying. You're a lady. He frowned at her accusingly. He had not expected this. A small merchant for a father, a former soldier maybe, but not this.
Well, some are, some aren't.
Running around as a hunter of the horn. Don't tell me the Lord of Bashir.
But most do have some in some blood.
Still holding the cup, she came back to sit beside him. For some reason, she seemed very intent on his face. My two older brothers died.
Nice growing homies.
One fighting Trollocs, the other in forest hunting. That made me the eldest. And it meant I had to study account books and trading. While my younger brothers learned to be soldiers, while they were being ready for
Their grandma was Arapaho.
I had to learn how to manage the estates. It is the
Then our dad's side is
duty.
Mexican and
dry
Comanche.
and boring, buried in paper and clerks. When Father took Maiden with him to the Blight Border, he's 2 years younger than I. That was more than I could stand. Girls are not taught the sword or war in Saldania.
And when I say my grandma, I mean my grandma that's my mom's mom.
My footman. And Aaron was always more than happy to teach me to use knives and fight with my hands. I think it amused him. When Father took Maiden with him, the news had arrived calling the great hunt of the Horn. So I left. I wrote Mother a letter explaining, and I left. And I reached Ilion in time to take the oath of a hunter. Picking up the cloth, she patted at the sweat on his face again. You really should sleep if you can. I suppose you are the lady Bashir, some such. How did you ever come to love? The firmness of her voice and her sharp eyes. Such a common blacksmith. The cloth paused. Aaron, what did that fellow mean about running with wolves? Rain mentioned this Elias too. For a moment, he was frozen, unbreathing.
Hell yeah, Gromus homies. I had to check that out.
Secrets from him. It was what he got for being hasty and angry. Swing a hammer in haste, and you usually hit your own thumb. He exhaled slowly and told her how he had met Elias Machira and learned he could talk to wolves. How his eyes had changed color, grown sharper, and his hearing and his sense of smell like a wolf's. About the wolf dream, about what would happen to him if he ever lost his hold on humanity. It's so easy. Sometimes, especially in the dream, I forget I'm a man, not a wolf. If one of these times I don't remember quickly enough, if I lose hold, I'll be a wolf. In my head, at least. A sort of...
Oh yeah, Gromus homies. Definitely have to check that book out.
There won't be anything of me. He stopped, waiting for her to flinch, to move away. If your ears are...
Hey, mate, Truth.
She said,
I hope you're doing well, bro.
I will have to watch what I say close to you. He caught her hand to stop her patting.
Right, some of them stories are pretty cool.
Did you hear anything I said? What will your father and mother think by you? A half-wolf blacksmith. You're a lady. Light. I heard. Father will approve.
I might have to see to have an audiobook, but if not, I still like reading, actual reading books. So
I know he thinks I am terribly soft. She gave him a smile, fierce enough for any wolf. Of course, Mother wanted me to marry a king who splits Trollocs in two with one stroke of his sword. I suppose your axe will suffice, but could you tell her you are the king of the wolves? I don't think anyone will come forward to dispute your claim to that throne. In truth, the splitting of Trollocs will probably do for Mother, but I truly think she would like the other. Light, he said hoarsely. She sounded almost serious. No, she did sound serious. If she was even half serious, he was not sure the Trollocs might not be better than meeting her parents. Here, she said, holding the mug of water to his lips. You sound as though your throat is dry. Swallowing, he spluttered at the bitter taste. She had stirred in Isla's powder.
I had to check my Audible and my other audiobook app I have, because I have my Audible that we're pretty much listening to now, and I have another one that has all kinds of audiobooks, but
he would have bet that whatever they took for themselves,
the other one has all the other audiobooks too. Is one that I can actually play on my lives, not get in trouble for, because all those books fall under a public domain.
Sleep, my parent. He tried to tell her he had indeed told her so, and she had heard it, but the words seemed to tangle around his tongue. His eyes wanted to slide shut. In fact, he could not keep them open. The last thing he heard was her soft murmurs. Sleep, my wolf king. Sleep.
No shit.
Chapter 42.
Yeah. I've had my Audible account for a minute.
Under bright sunlight, alone. There's no arrow in his side, no pain. Among the wagons, firewood was.
No, it's a monthly fee you pay, and it comes out to like $16 and like 10 cents. But every month that you pay your subscription, you get a credit, like one credit. And that one credit you could use to purchase any book, whether it's a $50, $60 book to whether it's a $5 book. And you get that book for that one credit. So basically you get it for free or your monthly subscription.
Tinker's gaudy wagons did not seem real, though.
Because right now on my audiobook I have on my Audible account, let's see.
They never remained long in one
I
place.
have
No soil.
semi-titles I have about 112 books in my audiobook library
He rested a hand on his axe.
from
Looked down and
the one credit I get every month.
The heavy blacksmith's hammer hung in the loop on his
I have this whole series that we're listening to.
frown.
I have
I'd even thought he had.
some Stephen King ones, some R.A. Salvatore, Books of Blood by Clive Barker. Just a whole bunch of different series. I'm starting to collect the Dark Tower series now. I got most of the Song of Fire and Ice.
He exhaled slowly. That had never happened before.
Yeah, the Song of Ice and Fire books. I got most of those. And those ones by George R. R. Martin are like $50, $60 books.
Looking around, you could just see a farmer.
I get it pretty much for
browsing the barley field.
the one credit I get every month.
There was no feel of wolves.
Oh yeah, it stays on forever. It pretty much goes down as a purchase. So that's your book. Even if you like say I decide to cancel my Audible account, I still have all those books and have access to all those books that I purchased with my one free credit. Because that one free credit is given to you with your monthly subscription to use on anything, any book. But they'll stay on there forever.
Whatever that stuff was that Faila had taken him right off. He remembered it as clearly as if he had watched over her shoulder. Fed it to me like I was a babe, he growled. Women. He took one of those long
But I liked it.
The land blurred around him and stepped into the
The only thing that sucks is when I find
two or three chickens scattered.
I had to start finding what books I want to get.
The rock-walled sheet.
Like I said, I started the Dark Tower one, collecting those.
Barns were barred shut.
This series that we're listening to.
Curtains still at the windows, the two-story farmhouse had the look of emptiness.
What else did I get? The song Ice and Fire. I've been getting those books.
Usually was in an odd way.
But there's a couple series I'm trying to get all of them.
Faila was right. His warning had spread beyond the places he had gone. Faila, he murmured wonderingly. Daughter of a lord. No, not just a lord.
And I got several Stephen King,
a general and uncle to a queen.
Robert Jordan,
Light, that
George R. Martin, R.A. Salvatore,
a simple blacksmith.
and a couple other ones.
Women were wondrous strange. Seeking to see how far the word had spread, he zigzagged more than halfway to Devon Ride. A mile or so at a stride, doubling back and crisscrossing his own path. Most farms he saw had that same emptiness. Less than 1 in 5 showed signs of habitation, doors open and windows up, wash hung out on a line, dolls or hoops or carved wooden horses lying around the doorstep. The toys especially made his stomach clench.
Oh shit, hell yeah.
Even if they had not believed his warning, surely there were enough.
That's another one I got. Can't remember who it's by. Let's see. I'll figure out real quick.
Chimneys like stark dead fingers. Bending to replace a doll with a smiling glass face and a flower-embroidered dress. Some woman had loved her daughter to do all that tiny needlework. He blinked. The same doll still sat on the fieldstone steps where he had picked it up. As he reached out, the one in his hand faded and vanished.
Oh yeah, I got a bunch of H.P. Lovecraft,
in the sky cut short his amazement.
Oscar Wilde, H.G. Wells.
Together, winging toward the westward, toward the mountains of mist, where he had first seen Slayer. He
got John Milton.
While the ravens dwindled to black specks and disappeared.
Oh yeah, I got some books by. You can buy like bundles of books too.
The land of blur I
actually got a little collection of different books that was done with one credit as
fir and pine and leather leaf forested valleys and slopes.
it was done as one credit, but it's multiple books. It's like a volume of them or different ones. I got
the Waygate stood there,
Sir
closed.
Arthur Conan Doyle. I got it's pretty much a
scattered trees,
collection of
wind sculpted, dotted the sparse soil along the glazed stone where Manetheren had been burned away. Sunlight sparkled on the waters of the Manetheren.
Like 15 books, no more.
Up the valley brought him the scent of deer.
It's pretty much the complete Sherlock Holmes collection.
On the point of leaving, he stopped.
The total listen time of that one is
1 leaf.
Like 60 hours.
Loyal had locked the Waygate by placing both leaves on this side. He turned, and his hackles rose. The Waygate stood open, twin masses of living greenery stirring in the breeze, exposing that dull, silvery surface.
Yeah, I got a lot of classics on there too.
How?
Got The Invisible Man,
Loyal locked the bloody
The
thing.
Portrait of Dorian Gray.
Unaware of crossing the distance,
Then like that,
he was right at the Waygate.
all the left. I have like
Leaf among the verdant
3 different HP Lovecraft collection.
In the waking world, someone or something was passing through where he stood. Touching the dull surface, he grunted. It might as well have been a mirror.
I got a lot of
His hands
Clive Barker.
as across the smoothest glass. From the corner of his eye, he caught the Aventador leaf suddenly in its place on the inside, and leaped back just as the Waygate began swinging shut. Someone or something had come out or gone in. Out. It has to be out. He wanted to doubt that it was more Trollocs and Fades coming into the two rivers. The gates merged, became stone carvings again. A sense of being watched was all the warning he had. He jumped, a half-seen image of black streaking through where his chest had been, an arrow. Jumped in one of those world-blurring stretches, landed on a fire and jumped again, out of the valley of Manetheren into a stand of towering fir, and again. Running, he thought furiously, picturing the valley in his mind, that brief glimpse of the arrow. It had come from that direction, at that angle when it reached him. So it had to have come from... A final bound took him back onto a slope above Manetheren's grave, crouching among meager, wind-slanted pines, with bow ready to draw. Below him, among the stunted trees and boulders, the arrow had been fired. There had to be down there somewhere. He had to be down. Without thinking, Perrin leaped away. The mountains a smear of gray and brown and green. Almost, he growled. Almost, he had duplicated his mistake in the waterwood. Thinking again the enemy would move to suit him, wait where he wanted. This time he ran as hard as he could. Only 3 flashing strides to the edge of the sandhills.
Okay, it was boring. You don't have to be here.
This time he circled wide, coming back higher on that same mountainside. Up where the air felt thin and cold, and the few trees were thick-trunked bushes 50 paces or more apart. Up above where
just
a man
sneezing and
might
coughing,
set himself to watch for another who meant to sneak up on the place that arrow had fired. And there his quarry was. 100
So what's your
paces
point?
below, dark-haired and dark-coated, a tall man crouched beside a table-sized granite outcrop, his own half-drawn bow in hand.
I'm coughing because I'm smoking fucking a wax pen. It's not like I can control my seasoning.
Perrin had gotten a good look at him. 100 paces was little distance for his eyes.
This light was just
This slayer's high-collared
for me to
coat
chill,
had
smoke, and listen to a book.
And his face looked enough like
Not
Lan's
sure
to
much
be the
more you want,
brothers.
what you expect.
Only Lan had no brothers, no living kin at all that Perrin knew. And if he had had any, they would not have been here.
Yeah, I'm a medical patient.
Maybe Shinaran, though his hair was long, not shaved to a top knot, and was held back by a braided leather cord just like Lan's. He could not be Melkiri. Lan was the last living Melkiri. Wherever he came from, Perrin felt no compunction at all in drawing his bow, broadhead point aimed at Slayer's back. This man had tried to kill him from ambush. A downhill shot could be tricky. Perhaps he had taken too long, or perhaps the fellow felt his cold gaze, but suddenly Slayer became a blur, streaking away east. With a curse, Perrin pursued. 3 strides to the sandhills, another into the westwood. Among the oaks and leatherleaf and underbrush, Slayer seemed to vanish. Halting, Perrin listened. Silence. The squirrels and birds had gone still. He inhaled deeply. A small herd of deer had passed that way not long since, and a faint tinge of something, human but too cold for a man, too emotionless, a scent that tickled his mind with familiarity. Slayer was somewhere close. The air lay as still as the forest, no stir of breeze to tell him which way that scent came. A neat trick, Golden Eyes, locking the way gate. Perrin tensed, ears straining. No telling from where in this dense growth that voice had come. Not so much as a leaf rustled. If you knew how many of the Shadowwrought died trying to get out of the ways there, it would lift your heart. Machin Shin feasted at that gate, Golden Eyes. But not a good enough trick. You saw. The gate is open now. There, off to the right. Perrin slipped through the trees as silently as he had when he had hunted here. It was only a few hundred to begin, Golden Eyes. Just enough to keep those fool white cloaks off balance and see that the renegade died. Slayer's voice became angry. The shadow consume me if that man does not have more luck than the White Tower. Abruptly he chuckled. But you, Golden Eyes, your presence was a surprise. There are those who want your head on a pike. Your precious 2 rivers will be harrowed from end to end now to root you out. What do you say to that, Golden Eyes? Perrin froze.
It's been a while since I had someone in here talking shit like that.
Why was the man talking so much? Why was he talking at all? He's drawing me right to him. Putting his back against the oak's thick bole, he studied the forest. No movement. Slayer wanted him to come nearer. No doubt into an ambush. And he wanted to find the man and rip his throat out.
Some people have nothing better to do.
Yet it could easily be himself who died. If that happened, no one would know the waygate was open.
I'd be right back.
Coming by hundreds, maybe even thousands. He would not play Slayer's game. With a mirthless smile, he stepped out of the wolf tree, telling himself to wake, and Fail twined her arms around his neck and nipped his beard with small white teeth, while Tinker's fiddles sang some wild, heated tune around the campfires. Eyeless powder. I can't wake up. Awareness that it was a dream faded. Laughing, he scooped Fail up in his arms and carried her into the shadows where the grass was soft. Waking was a slow process, wrapped around the dull pain filling his side. Daylight streamed in at the small windows. Bright light. Morning. He tried to sit up and fell back with a groan. Fail sprang up from a low stool. Her dark eyes looked as if she had not slept. Lie still, she said. You did enough thrashing in your sleep. I have not kept you from rolling over and driving that thing the rest of the way through you. Just to watch you do it now you're awake. Ivan stood leaning against the doorframe, like a dark blade. Help me up, Perrin said. Talking hurt, but so did breathing, and he had to talk. I have to get to the mountains, to the waygate. She put a hand to his forehead, frowning. Fever, she murmured. Then more strongly, you are going to Emmons Field, where one of the Aes Sedai can heal you. You are not going to kill yourself trying to ride into the mountains with an arrow in you. Do you hear me? If I hear one more word about mountains or waygates, I will have Isla mix something that will be right and will travel on a litter. I am not certain you should not anyway. The Trollocs, Fail. The waygate is open again. I have to stop them. The woman did not even hesitate before shaking her head. You can do nothing about it, the state you are in. It is Emmons Field for you. But me no buts, Père Nabara. Not another word on it. He ground his teeth. The worst was that she was right. If he could not rise from a bed alone, how could he stay in the saddle as far as Manetheren? Emmons Field, he said graciously, but she still sniffed and muttered something about pig-headed. What did she want? Was bloody gracious. Burn her for stubborn. So there will be more Trollocs, Ivan said musingly. He did not ask how Perrin knew. Then he shook his head as if dismissing Trollocs. I will tell the others you are awake. He slipped out, closing the door behind him. Am I the only one who sees the danger? Perrin muttered. I see an arrow in you, Fail said firmly. The reminder gave him a twinge. He just stifled a groan. And she gave a satisfied nod. Satisfied. He wanted to be up and on the way immediately. The sooner he was healed, the sooner he could see to closing the waygate again. Permanently this time. Fail insisted on feeding him breakfast, a broth thick with mashed vegetables, suitable for a toothless infant, 1 spoon at a time, with pauses to wipe his chin. She would not let him feed himself, and whenever he protested or asked her to go faster, she shoved the words back into his mouth with a spoonful of pap. She would not even let him wash his own face. By the time she got around to brushing his hair and combing his beard, he had settled on dignified silence. You are pretty when you sulk, she said, and pinched his nose. Isla, in green blouse and blue skirt this morning, climbed into the wagon with his coat and shirt, both cleaned and mended. To his irritation, he had to let the 2 women help him don them. He had to let them help him sit up to don them. The coat unbuttoned and the shirt not tucked in, but bunched around the arrow stub. Thank you, Isla, he said, fingering the neat darns. This is fine needlework. It is, she agreed. Fail has a deft touch with a needle. Fail colored, and he grinned, thinking of how fiercely she had told him she would never mend his clothes. A glint in her eye held his tongue. Sometimes silence was the wiser course. Thank you, Fail, he said gravely instead. She blushed even redder. Once they had him on his feet, he reached the door easily enough, but he had to let the 2 women half support him to climb down the wooden steps. At least the horses were saddled, and all the 2 Rivers lads gathered, bows slung on their backs, with clean faces and clothes, and only a few bandages out where they showed. A night with the Tuatha had obviously been good for their spirits, too, even those who still looked as though they could not walk 100 paces. The haggardness that had been in their eyes yesterday was only a shadow now. Will had each arm around a pretty big-eyed tinker girl, of course, and Ban Lewin, with his nose and a bandage around his head, making his dark hair stand up in a brush, held hands with another, smiling shyly. Most of the others held bowls of thick vegetable stew and spoons, shoveling away. This is good, Perrin, Daniel said, giving up his empty bowl to a tinker woman. She gestured as if to ask the beanpole fellow whether he wanted more, and he shook his head, but said, I don't think I could ever get enough of it, do you? I had my fill, Perrin told him sourly. Mashed vegetables and broth. The tinker girls danced last night, Daniel's cousin Tell said, wide-eyed. All the unmarried women, and some of them married. You should have seen it, Perrin. I've seen tinker women dance before, Tell. Apparently, he had not kept his voice clear of what he had felt watching them, for Fail said dryly, You've seen the Tiganza, have you? Someday, if you are good, I may dance the Sassara for you, and show you what a dance really is. Isla gasped in recognition of the name, and Fail went even redder than she had inside. Perrin pursed his lips. If this Sassara set the heart pounding any harder than the tinker women's swaying, hip-rolling dance, the Tiganza, was it? He definitely would like to see Fail dance it. He carefully did not look at her. Rain came, in the same bright green coat, but trousers redder than any red Perrin had ever seen before. The combination made his head ache. Twice you have visited our fires, Perrin, and for the second time you go without a farewell feast. You must come again soon so we can make up for it. Pushing away from Fail and Isla, he can stand by himself at least. He put a hand on the wiry man's shoulder. Come with us, Rain. No one in Emmonsfield will harm you. At worst, it's safer than out here with the Trollocs. Rain hesitated, then shook himself, muttering, I do not know how you can even make me consider such things. Turning, he spoke loudly. People, Perrin has asked us to come with him to his village, where we will be safe from Trollocs. Who wishes to go? Shocked faces stared back at him. Some women gathered their children close, and the children hid in their skirts as if the very idea frightened them. You see, Perrin, Rain said, for us, safety lies in moving, not in villages. I assure you, we do not spend 2 nights in one place, and we will travel all day before stopping again. That may not be enough, Rain. The Mahdi shrugged. Your concern warms me, but we will be safe if the light wins it. The way of the leaf is not only to do no violence, Isla said gently, but to accept what comes. The leaf falls in its proper time uncomplaining. The light will keep us safe for our time. Perrin wanted to argue with them, but behind all the warmth and compassion on their faces lay a stony firmness. He thought he would get Bane and Chiad to don dresses and give up their spears, or Gaul too, before he made these people budge an inch. Rain shook Perrin's hand, and with that the Tinker women began hugging the Two Rivers lads, and Ivan too. And the Tinker men began shaking hands, all laughing and saying goodbyes and wishing everyone a safe journey, hoping they would come again. Almost all the men did. Aram stood off to one side, frowning to himself, hands thrust into his coat pockets. The last time Perrin met him, he had seemed to have a sour streak. Odd for a Tinker. The men did not content themselves with shaking Fail's hand, but hugged her. Perrin kept his face smooth when some of the younger men became overly enthusiastic, only grinding his teeth a little. He managed to smile. No woman much younger than Isla hugged him. Somehow, even while Fail was letting some skinny, gaudy-coated Tinker fold his arms around her and try to squeeze her flat, she stood guard on him like a mastiff. Women without gray in their hair took one look at her face and chose someone else. Meanwhile, Will appeared to be kissing every woman in the camp. So was Ban, and his nose. Even Ivan was enjoying himself, for that matter. It would serve Fail right if one of those fellows cracked a rib for her. Finally, the Tinkers moved back, except for Rain and Isla, opening a space around the Two Rivers folk. The wiry, gray-haired man bowed formally, hands to chest. You came in peace. Depart now in peace. Always will our fires welcome you. The way of the leaf is peace. Peace be on you always, Perrin replied, and on all the people. Light be it so. I will find the song, or another will find the song, but the song will be sung this year or in a year to come. He wondered if there had ever been a song, or if the Tuatha had begun their endless journey seeking something else. Elias had told them they did not know what song, only that they would know it when they found it. Let them find safety, at least that. As it once was, so shall it be again, world without end. World without end, the Tuatha responded in a solemn murmur. World and time without end. A few final hugs and handshakes were handed round, while Ivan and Fail were helping Perrin up on Stepper. A few last kisses collected by Will, and Ban, and his nose. Others, the badly wounded, were half lifted onto their horses, with Tinkers waving as if to old neighbors off on a long journey. Rain came to shake Perrin's hand. Will you not reconsider? Perrin asked. I remember hearing you say once there was wickedness loose in the world. It's worse now, Rain. And here. Peace be on you, Perrin, Rain replied, smiling. And on you, he said sadly. The Aiel did not appear until they were a mile north of the Tinker camp, Bane and Chiad looking to Fail before trotting ahead to their usual place. Perrin was not sure what they thought might have happened to her among Tuathalan. Gaul moved in beside Stepper, striding easily. The party was not moving very fast, with nearly half the men walking. He glanced at Ivan measuringly, as usual, before turning to Perrin. Your injury is well? His injury hurt like fury. Every step his horse took jolted that arrowhead. I feel fine, he said, not gritting his teeth. Maybe we'll have a dance in Emmons Field tonight. And you? Did you pass a good night playing Maiden's Kiss? Gaul stumbled and nearly fell on his face. What is the matter? Who did you hear suggest this game? The Aielman said quietly, staring straight ahead. Chiad. Why? Chiad, Gaul muttered. The woman is Goshin. Goshin! I should take her back to Hot Springs as Guy Shine. The words sounded angry, but not his odd tone. Chiad. Will you tell me what is the matter? A Murdral is less cunning than a woman, Gaul said in a flat voice, and a Trolloc fights with more honor. After a moment he added, in a fierce undertone, and a goat has more sense. Quickening his pace, he ran forward to join the two maidens. He did not speak to them, as far as Perrin could make out, only slowed to walk alongside. Did you understand any of that? Perrin asked Ivan. The warder shook his head. Fail sniffed. If he thinks to make trouble for them, they will hang him by his heels from a branch to cool off. Did you understand it? Perrin asked her. She walked along, neither looking at him nor answering, which he took to mean she did not. I think I might have to find Rain's camp again. It's been a long time since I saw this. It was interesting. She muttered something under her breath, but he caught it. You could do with hanging by your heels yourself. He smiled down at the top of her head. But I won't have to. You promised to dance this Sasara for me. Her face went crimson. Is it anything close to the Tiganza? I mean, there is no point otherwise. You muscle-brained oaf! She snapped, glaring up at him. Men have thrown their hearts and fortunes at the feet of women who dance the Sasara. If Mother suspected I knew it. Her teeth clicked shut as though she had said too much, and her head whipped back to face forward. Scarlet mortification covered her, from her dark hair down to the neck of her dress. Then there isn't any reason for you to dance it, he said quietly. My heart and fortune, such as they are, already lie at your feet. Fael missed a step, then laughed softly and pressed her cheek against his booted calf. You are too clever for me, she murmured. One day I will dance it for you and boil the blood in your veins. You already do that, he said. And she laughed again. Pushing her arm behind his stirrup, she hugged his leg to her as she walked. After a while, even the thought of Fael dancing, he extrapolated from the Tinker dance. There must be something to top that. Could not compete with the pain in his side.
Hey, how you doing, bro?
Was agony. He held himself upright. It seemed to hurt a fraction less that way. Besides, he did not want to spoil the lift that Tuathalan had given everyone's spirits. The other men were sitting up straight in their saddles, too, even those who had been hunched over. And
hope you're doing good, Lewis.
And Ban and Daniel and the others walked with heads up. He would not be the first to slump.
I'm not doing too bad. Just chilling, listening to a good book, and smoking.
After a time, Ben began to sing in a clear, deep voice. My home is waiting there for me and the girl I left behind. Of all the treasure that waits for me, that's what I want to find. Her eyes so merry and her smile so sweet, her hug so warm and her ankle neat, her kisses hot, now there's a treat. There's a treasure greater, it lies not in my mind. More joined in on the second verse until everyone sang, even Ivan. And Failo. Not Perrin, of course. He had been told often enough that he sounded like a stepped-on frog singing. Some even fell into step with the music. Oh, I have seen stark Tarwin's gap and the Trollocs' raving horde. I have stood for the Halfman's charge and walked on death's cold board. But a winsome lass, she waits for me for a dance and a kiss 'neath the apple tree. Perrin shook his head. The day before, they had been ready to run and hide. Today they sang about a battle so long ago that it had left no memory but this song in the two rivers. Perhaps they were becoming soldiers. They would have to, unless he managed to close that waygate. Farms began to appear more often, closer together, until they traveled along hard-packed dirt between fields bordered by hedges or low, rough stone walls. Abandoned farms.
I appreciate it, Grandpa. I'm not watching nothing. I actually have a audio book playing.
The Mathurin through Devon Ride to Emmons Field, and at last began to see sheep in the pastures.
How's your night going, Grandpa?
A dozen men's flocks gathered together, with 10 shepherds, where there once would have been one, and half of them grown men. Bow-armed shepherds watched them pass, singing at the top of their lungs, not knowing quite what to make of it. Perrin did not know what to make of his first view of Emmons Field, and neither did the other two rivers men, from the way their singing faltered and died. The trees, fences, and hedges closest to the village were simply gone, cleared away. The westernmost houses of Emmons Field once stood among the trees on the edge of the western. The oaks and leatherleaf between the houses remained.
Oh yeah, I'm okay.
The forest's brim stood 500 paces away. A long
hell yeah, Grandpa.
And axes rang loud as men pushed it back farther.
Is this the dab pen I'm smoking?
Waist-high stakes, driven into the ground at an angle, surrounded the village, a little out from the houses, and presented a continuous hedge of sharpened points, except at intervals behind the stakes, men stood like sentries, some wearing bits of old armor, or leather shirts sewn with rusty steel discs. A few indented old steel caps with boar spears, or halberds rooted out of attics, or bush hooks fitted to long poles. Other men and boys were up on some of the thatched roofs with bows. They stood when they saw.
Oh yeah, Grandpa.
And shouted to people below.
I need a little practice on it too.
Stood a contraption of wood with a nearby pile of stones bigger than a man's head. Ivan noticed Perrin frowning at it as they came closer. Catapult, the warder said. 6 so far. Others knew what to do once Tomas and I showed them. The stakes will hold off charging Trollocs or White Cloaks, either one.
It's not that bad as long as I don't try to rip it too much.
I told you your village was preparing to defend itself.
And it gets
Fail sounded fiercely proud.
A little rough.
A heart hateful for such a soft land. They could almost be Saldinian.
Excuse me.
Moraine always said Manetherin's blood runs strong here still.
I'm okay, and I still get my ass whooped if I play online, Grandpa.
Dirt streets were nearly crowded enough.
The people online that play,
gaps between houses filled with carts and
them dudes are ruthless on there.
Through open doors and unshuttered windows, you could see more people.
My online record on there is I have more losses than I have wins.
Perrin Goldeneyes. Perrin Goldeneyes. He wished they would not do that. These people knew him. Some of them. What did they do? There was horse-faced Nisa A. Ellen, who had paddled his 10-year-old
Had to start a new
backside
character
that
from
time
scratch
after
again.
stealing one of her gooseberry pies. And there was pink-cheeked, big-eyed.
Just so I could go through
Celia Cole,
the minors
first
to
girl he had ever
then
kissed
actually go
and
to
snubbed his
UFC.
own mom. And Pele Dare, with his pipe and his bald head, who had taught Perrin how to catch trout with his hands. And Days
Hell yeah,
herself,
Grandpa.
a tall, wide woman.
Definitely see you tomorrow.
Seemed soft, with her husband Wit.
Hope you have a good night.
Overshadowed as always by his wife. And they were all staring at him and whispering to the people from off, who might not know who he was. When old Sen Bowie lifted a little boy up on his shoulder, pointing at Perrin and talking enthusiastically to the boy, Perrin groaned. They had all gone mad. Townsfolk trailed after Perrin and the others, around them, in a parade that rode a swell of murmurs. Chickens
hopefully I don't
under people's feet,
get cut off here,
calves and pigs squealing in
because I'm
behind the houses.
just about out of my
Sheep crowded the green, black and white milk cows.
I'm almost out of my time for my StreamYards.
And in the middle of the green rose a tall post.
I'm using the last of my 23 hours.
Rippling lazily.
So if I get cut off all of a sudden, y'all know why.
But she shook her head, as surprised as
because I ran over my time on StreamYards.
a symbol. Perrin had not heard Baron's approach, though now he caught hushed whispers of Aes Sedai floating around her. Yvonne did not look surprised. People stared at her with awe-filled eyes. People need
because I don't have
Baron went on,
the funds to do the paid version of it, so
when Elana told a few of the villagers
my
how
20 hours runs out
everyone seemed to think
pretty
these
much
men
like
had a grand idea.
probably in about 5 minutes.
Was there a dryness in her voice then?
Oh yeah, you have a good night
Her
too,
dark eyes
Lewis.
looked up at him bird-like.
And it don't
Watching a worm.
it doesn't restart till
I wonder what Queen Morgaze
the end of the month.
Fael said. This is part of Andor. Queens seldom like strange banners being...
Hell yeah, Lewis. Definitely appreciate it, bro.
That's nothing but lines on a map, Perrin told her.
Since I'm not at 1K, I can't just stream regular. I got to use a StreamYard.
I did not even know we were supposed to be part of Andor until I went to Camelin. I doubt many people here do. Rulers have a tendency to believe maps. There was no doubt of the dryness in Fael's tone. When I was a child, there were parts of Saldaea that had not seen a taxman in 5 generations. One's father could turn his attention.
Yeah, you have a good one, bro.
Zenobia made sure they knew who their queen was. This is the 2 rivers, he said, grinning. Not Saldaea. Very fierce up there in Saldaea. As he turned back to Varen, the grin became a frown. I thought you were hiding who you are. He could not say which was more disturbing. Aes Sedai there in secret, or Aes Sedai in the open. The Aes Sedai's hand hovered an inch from the
Hell yeah, Lewis. Definitely appreciate you stopping by and subbing up, bro.
This is not good, she murmured. Caught in the rib and some infection in spite of that poultice. This needs Elana, I think. She blinked and pulled her hand back. The tingle went too. What? The hiding? Oh, with what has been stirred up here now, we could hardly remain hidden. I suppose we could have gone away. You wouldn't want that, would you? There was that sharp, considering, bird-like stare again. He hesitated, and finally sighed. I suppose not. That is good to hear, she said with a smile. Why did you really come here, Baron? She did not seem to hear him, or did not want to. Now, we need to see to that thing in you. And these other lads need to do too. Elana and I will see to the worst, but the men with him were as stunned by what they found here as he was. Ban scratched his head at the banner, and the few just stared around in amazement. Most looked at Baron, though, wide-eyed and uneasy. They had surely heard the whispers of Aes Sedai. Aaron was not escaping those looks entirely himself, he realized, talking to an Aes Sedai as though she were just any village woman. Baron considered them right back, then suddenly, without seeming to look, reached behind her to snatch a girl of about 10 or 12 out of the onlookers. The girl, long dark hair caught up with blue ribbons, went rigid with shock. "You know Day's Conger, girl?" Baron said. "Well, you would find her and tell her there are injured men who need a wisdom's herbs. And tell her to jump. You tell her I'll have no patience with her airs. You have that? Off with you." Baron did not recognize the girl, but evidently she did know Days, because she flinched at the message. But Baron was an Aes Sedai. After a moment of weighing Days Conger against an Aes Sedai, the girl scampered away into the crowd. "And Alana will take care of you," Baron said, peering up at him again. He wished she did not sound as though there might be two meanings to that. Chapter 43. Care for the Living. Taking Stepper's bridle, Baron led him to the wine spring in herself, the crowd melting back to let her through, then falling in after. Daniel and Ban and the others trailed along on horse and afoot, kin mingling with them now. Astounded as they were by the changes in Emond's Field, the lads still showed their pride by striding, even if they limped, or sitting up straighter in the saddle. They had faced Trollocs and come home. But women ran their hands over sons and nephews and grandsons, often biting back tears. Their low moans made a soft, pained murmur. Tie-dyed men tried to hide their worries behind proud smiles, clapping shoulders and exclaiming over newly begun beards, yet frequently their hugs just happened to turn into a shoulder to lean on. Sweethearts rushed in with kisses and loud cries, equal parts happiness and commiseration. And little brothers and sisters, uncertain, alternated between fits of weeping and clinging in wide-eyed wonder to a brother everyone seemed to be taking for a hero. It was the other voices Baron wished he could not hear. "Where's Kenry?" Mistress Ahan was a handsome woman, with streaks of white in her nearly black braid, but she wore a fear-filled frown as she scanned faces and saw eyes flinch from hers. "Where's my Kenry?" "Billy!" Old Hugh Aldai called uncertainly. "Has anyone seen
right back?
Hugh, Jared, Tim, Cully." In front of the inn, Baron fell out of the saddle in his need to escape those names, not even seeing whose hands caught him. "Get me inside," he grated. "Inside. Tevin! Harald! Head!" The door cut off the heart-lost wails and the cries of Dale Altaran's mother for someone to tell her where her son was. In a Trolloc cookpot, Baron thought, as he was lowered into a chair in the common room. In a Trolloc's belly, where I put him, Mistress Altaran. Where I put him. Fail had his head in her hands, peering into his face worriedly. Care for the living, he thought. I'll weep for the dead later. Later. "I'm all right," he told her. "I just got a little lightheaded dismounting. I've never been a good rider." She did not seem to believe him. "Can't you do something?" she demanded of Baron. The Aes Sedai calmly shook her head. "I think better not, child. Pity neither of us is yellow, but Alana is still a much better healer than I. My talents lie in other directions. Ivan will bring her. Wait with patience, child." The common room had been turned into an armory of sorts. Except in front of the fireplace, the walls were a solid mass of propped spears of every description, with the occasional halberd or bill mixed in, and some polearms with oddly shaped blades, many pitted and discolored where old rust had been scoured away. Even more surprisingly, a barrel near the foot of the stairs held swords.
Let me go past my time.
Together. Most without scabbards and
I'm not sure how much longer, but
every attic within 5 miles.
After this live, I would be able to do another live, at least another live like this until
there were 5 swords in the whole 2 rivers.
End of the month.
Before the White Cloaks and Trollocs came, anyway.
It's when my time on my free time on StreamYards resets. But I definitely be doing some live game streaming. At least try to, anyways.
On the other side of the room, watching Fail and all else, the two maidens cradled their spears in the crook of an elbow and took a hip shot stance that seemed at once casual, yet balanced on the toes. The three young fellows who had carried Perrin in shifted their feet by the door, staring at him and the Aes Sedai and the Aiel with equal eyes. That was all. The others, Perrin said, they need him. They will be taken care of. Perrin interrupted smoothly, seating herself at another table. They will want to be with their families. Much better to have loved ones close. Perrin felt a stab of pain. The graves below the apple trees flashed in his mind, but he pushed it down. Take care of the living, he reminded himself harshly. The Aes Sedai brought out her pen and ink and began making notes in that small book in a precise hand. He wondered whether she cared how many Two Rivers folk died, so long as he lived, to be used in the White Tower's plans for Rand. Fail squeezed his hand, but it was to the Aes Sedai that she spoke. Should we not take him up to a bed? Not yet, Perrin told her irritably. Perrin looked up and opened her mouth, and he repeated in a firmer voice, not yet. The Aes Sedai shrugged and went back to her note-taking. Does anyone know where Loyal is? The Ogier, one of the three by the door said. Dav Aelin was stockier than Matt, but he had that same twinkle in his dark eyes. He had the same rumpled, uncombed look about him as Matt, too. In the old days, what little mischief Matt did not get up to, Dav did, though Matt usually led the way. He's out with the men clearing back the westward. You'd think we were cutting down his brother every time we cut a tree. But he clears 3 to anybody else's 1 with that monstrous axe he had Master Luhan make. If you want him, I saw J.M. Thane running to tell them you had come in. I'll bet they all come to get a look at you. Peering at the broken-off arrow, he winced and rubbed his own side in sympathy. Does it hurt much? It hurts enough, Perrin said curtly. Coming to get a look at him. What am I, a gleeman? What about Luke? I don't want to see him, but is he here? I'm afraid not. The second man, Elam Doubtry, rubbed his long nose. Incongruous with his farmer's wool coat and his cowlick, he wore a sword at his belt. The hilt had been freshly wrapped in rawhide, and the leather scabbard flaked and peeling. Lord Luke is off hunting the Horn of Valir, I think, or maybe Trollocs. Dav and Elam were Perrin's friends, or had been, companions in hunting and fishing, both his age near enough, but their thrilled grins made them seem younger. Either Matt or Rand could have passed for 5 years older at least. Maybe he... I hope he comes back soon, Elam went on. He's been showing me how to use a sword. Did you know he's a hunter for the Horn? And a king if he had his rights. Of Andor, I hear. Andor has queens, Perrin muttered absently, meeting Fail's gaze. Not kings. So he is not here, she said. Gaul shifted slightly. He looked ready to go hunting. Luke, his eyes blue ice. They were not surprised to see Bane and Gia bailed themselves on the spot. No, Perrin said vaguely, manifestly more intent on her notes than what she was saying. Not that he hasn't been a help sometimes, but he does have a way of causing trouble when he is here. Yesterday, before anyone knew what he was doing, he led a delegation out to meet a White Cloak patrol and told them Emond's Field was closed to them. He apparently told them not to come within 10 miles. I cannot approve of White Cloaks, but I do not suppose they took that very well. Not wise to antagonize them more than is strictly necessary. Frowning at what she had written, she rubbed her nose, seemingly unaware of leaving a smudge of ink. Perrin did not much care how the White Cloaks took anything. Yesterday, he breathed. If Luke had come back to the village yesterday, it was not likely he could have had anything to do with Trollocs being where they were not expected. The more Perrin thought about how that ending turned around, the more he thought the Trollocs must have been expecting them. The more he wanted to blame Luke. Wanting won't make a stone cheese, he muttered. But he still smells like cheese to me. Dab and the other two looked at each other doubtfully. Perrin supposed he must not seem to be making much sense. It was a bunch of Coplans, mainly, the third fellow said, in a startlingly deep voice. Dahl and Harry and Dag and Ewell. And with Conger. Days gave him a fit over it. I heard they all liked the White Cloaks. Perrin thought the base-voiced fellow seemed familiar. He was younger than Elam and Dab by 2 or 3 years, yet an inch taller, lean-faced, but with wide shoulders. They did, the fellow laughed. You know them. They drift naturally toward anything that makes trouble for somebody else. Since Lord Luke has been talking, they're all for marching up to Watch Hill and telling the White Cloaks to get out of the Two Rivers. Anyway, they're for somebody else marching up there. I think they mean to be well back in the pack. If that face had been pudgy and half a foot or more nearer the ground. Owen Fingar, Perrin exclaimed. It could not be. Owen was a stout, squeaky little nuisance who tried to crowd in whenever the older fellows got together. This lad would be as big as he was or bigger by the time he stopped growing. Is that you? Elwyn nodded with a broad grin. We've been hearing all about you, Perrin, he said in that surprising face. Fighting Trollocs and having all kinds of adventures out in the world, so they say. I can still call you Perrin, can't I? Why, yes, Perrin barked. He was more than tired of this Golden Eyes business. I wish I'd gone with you last year. Dab rubbed his hands together eagerly. Coming home with Aes Sedai and warders and he made them sound like trophies. All I ever do is herd cows and milk cows, herd cows and milk cows. That and hoe and chop wood. You've had all the luck. What was it like? Elam put in breathlessly. Alana Sedai said you've been all the way to the Great Blight. And I hear you've been to Caemlyn and Tyr. What's a city like? Are they really 10 times as big as Emond's Field? Did you see a palace with dark friends in the cities? Is the Blight really full of Trollocs and Fades and Warders? Did a Trolloc give you that scar? Voice like a bull or not, Elwyn managed a sort of squeaky excitement. I wish I had a scar. Did you see a queen or a king? I think I'd rather see a queen, but a king would be grand. What is the White Tower like? Is it as big as a palace? Fail smiled, amused, but Perrin blinked at the onslaught. Had they forgotten the Trollocs on winter night? Forgotten the Trollocs in the countryside right then? Elam clutched his sword hilt as if he wanted to be off for the Blight on the instant. And Dab was up on his toes, eyes gleaming, and Ellen looked ready to grab Perrin's collar. Adventure? They were idiots. Yet there were hard times coming. Harder than the Two Rivers had seen so far, he was afraid. It could not hurt if they had a little while longer before they learned the truth. His side hurt, but he tried to answer. They seemed disappointed he had never seen the White Tower, or a king or a queen. He thought Berelain might suffice for a queen, but with Fail there, he was not about to mention her. Some other things he shied away from: Falmouth and the Eye of the World, the Forsaken, Kalendor. Dangerous subjects, those, leading inevitably to the Dragon Reborn. He could tell them a little of Caemlyn, though, and Tyr, of the Borderlands and the Blight. It was odd what they accepted and what not. The corrupted landscape of the Blight, seeming to rot while you looked at it, they ate up, and top-knotted Shienaran soldiers, and Ogier Steading, where Aes Sedai could not wield the power, and Fades were reluctant to enter. But the size of the Stone of Tyr, or the immensity of cities. About his own supposed adventures, he said, mainly I've just tried to keep from having my head split open. That's what adventures are. That and finding a place to sleep for the night and something to eat. You go hungry a lot having adventures, and sleep cold or wet or both. They did not like that very much.
Let's see what
Or
that
appeared to
was.
believe it any more than they believed that the stone was as big as a small
Almost like
mountain.
a flash went off.
He reminded himself that he had known as little of the world before he left the Two Rivers. It did not help much. He had never been this wide-eyed, had he? The common room seemed to be hot. He would have taken his coat off, but moving seemed too much effort. What about Rand and Matt? Ewan demanded. If it's all being hungry and getting rained on, why didn't they come home too? Tam and Abel had come in, Tam with a sword belted on over his coat, and both men with bows. Oddly, the sword looked right on Tam, farm coat or no. So he told it much as he had before, Matt gambling and carousing in taverns and chasing girls, Rand in his fine coat, with a pretty yellow-haired girl on his arm. He made Elaine a lady, expecting they would never believe the daughter heir of Andor, and was proved right when they expressed incredulity. Still, it all seemed satisfactory, the kind of thing they wanted to hear, and disbelief faded a bit when Elam pointed out that Fail was a lady. It seemed to be dancing attendance on Perrin pretty sharp. That made Perrin grin. He wondered what they would say if he told them she was cousin to a queen. Fail no longer appeared to be amused for some reason. She turned on him with a stare to match Elaine's haughtiest, stiff-backed and frosty face. You have badgered him enough. He is wounded. You now. For a wonder, they bowed clumsily. Dav made an awkward leg, looking a complete fool, and murmured and turned to go. Their departure was delayed by the arrival of Loyal, stooping through the doorway with his shaggy hair brushing the transom. They
Like they haven't cut me off yet.
Seeing him for the first time.
I'm well past my allowed time that I had left.
That cold lady's stare of hers did work. When Loyal straightened, his head came just short of the ceiling. His capacious coat pockets bore the usual squared bulges of books, but he carried a huge axe. Its haft stood as tall as he did, and its head, shaped like a wood axe, was at least as big as Perrin's battle axe. You are hurt, he boomed, as soon as his eyes fell on Perrin. They told me you had returned, but they did not say you were hurt, or I would have come faster. The axe gave Perrin a start. Among Ogier, putting a long handle on your axe meant being hasty or angry. Ogier seemed to see the two as much the same thing for some reason. Loyal did look angry, tufted ears drawing back, frowning so his dangling eyebrows cheeks. At having to cut trees, no doubt. Perrin wanted to get him alone and find out if he had seen anything more concerning Alana's doings. Or Varen's. He rubbed his face and was surprised to find it dry. He felt as if he should be sweating. He is also stubborn, Fail said, turning on Perrin with the same commanding look she had used on Dav, and Elam, and Ewan. Who should be in bed? Where is Alana, Perrin? If she is to heal him, where is she? She will come. The Aes Sedai did not look up. She was back into her little book again, frowning thoughtfully, pen poised. He should still be in a bed. I will have time for that later, Perrin said firmly. He smiled at her to soften it, but all that did was make her look worried and mutter stubborn under her breath. He could not ask Loyal about the Aes Sedai in front of Perrin. There was something else at least as important. Loyal, the Waygate is unlocked, and Trollocs coming through. How can that be? The Ogier's brows sank even deeper, and his ears wilted. My fault, Perrin, he rumbled mournfully. I put both Avan-Dessora leaves on the outside. That locked the Waygate on the inside, but from the outside anyone could still open it. The ways have been dark for long generations, yet we grew them. I could not bring myself to destroy the gate. I am sorry, Perrin. It is all my fault. I did not believe a Waygate could be destroyed, Fail said. I did not mean destroy exactly. Loyal leaned on his long-handled axe. A Waygate was destroyed once, less than 500 years after the breaking, according to Damel, daughter of Allah, daughter of Sopera.
because the gate was near a steading that had fallen to the blight. There are 2 or 3 gates lost in the blight as it is. But she wrote that it was very difficult and required 13 Aes Sedai working together with a sa'angreal. Another attempt she wrote of, by only 9 during the Trolloc Wars, damaged the gate in such a way that the Aes Sedai were pulled into.
He cut off, ears wriggling with embarrassment, and knuckled his wide nose. Everyone was staring at him, even Baron and the Aiel.
I do let myself be carried away sometimes. The wicked. Yes, I cannot destroy it, but if I remove both Avan-Dessora leaves completely, they will die.
He grimaced at the thought.
The only means of opening the gate again will be for the elders to bring the Talisman of Growing, though I suppose an Aes Sedai could cut a hole in it.
This time he shuddered. Damaging a waygate must have seemed like tearing a A moment later, he was game-faced once more.
I will go now.
No, Baron said sharply. The arrowhead seemed to throb, but it did not really hurt anymore. He was talking too much. His throat was dry. There are Trollocs up there, Loyal. They can fit an Ogier into a cook pot as well as a human.
But Perrin,
No, Loyal. How are you going to write your book if you go off and get yourself killed? Loyal's ears twitched.
It is my responsibility, Perrin.
The responsibility is mine, Perrin said gently. You told me what you were doing with the Waygate, and I didn't suggest anything different. Besides, the way you jump every time your mother is mentioned, I don't want her coming after me. I will go as soon as Alanna heals this arrow out of me. He wiped his forehead, then frowned at his hand. Still no sweat. Can I have a drink of water? Faile was there in an instant, her cool fingers where his hand had been. He's burning up. Baron, we cannot wait for Alanna. You must... I am here, the dark Aes Sedai announced, appearing from the door at the back of the common room. Mara Nalvir and Alsbeth Luhan at her heels, and Ivan right behind them. Baron felt the tingle of the power before Alanna's hand replaced Faile's, and she added in a cool, serene voice, "Carry him into the kitchen. The table there is large enough to lay him out. Quickly, there is not much time." Perrin's head spun, and abruptly he realized Loyal had leaned his axe beside the door and picked him up, cradling him in his arms. The Waygate is mine, Loyal. Wait, I'm thirsty. My responsibility. The arrowhead truly did not seem to hurt as much as it had, but he ached all over. Loyal was carrying him somewhere, bending through doorways. There was Mistress Luhan, biting her lip, eyes squinched as if about to cry. He wondered why. She never cried. Mistress Alvir looked worried too. Mistress Luhan, he murmured. Mother says I can come and be apprenticed to Master Luhan. That was a long time ago. That was... what was? He could not seem to remember. He was lying on something hard, listening to Alanna speak. Barbs are caught on bone as well as flesh, and the arrowhead is twisted. I must realign it with the first wound and pull it out. If the shock does not kill him, I can then heal the damage I have done as well as the rest. There is no other way.
Hey, Enforcer, how you doing, bro?
Nothing to do with him.
You made it.
Smiled down at him nervously, her face upside down.
Yeah, this live probably could be my last one, or at least my live like this at night until near the end of the month, Enforcer.
For some reason.
That's when my time resets on StreamYards.
Loyal's big hands swallowed his shoulders.
That's got the free version.
Table. Yes, the kitchen table.
Might definitely be doing
Faile said from far away.
Some gaming lives.
It will hurt. He wanted to ask her what would hurt, but she was pressing a leather-wrapped stick into his mouth. He smelled the leather and the spicewood and her. would she come hunting with him, running across the endless grassy plains after endless herds of deer? Icy cold shivered through him. Vaguely he recognized the feel of the one power. And then there was pain. He heard the stick snap between his teeth before blackness covered him.
Oh shit, hell yeah, Enforcer.
Chapter 44. Baron opened his eyes slowly, staring up at the plain white plastered ceiling. It took a moment to realize he was in a four-posted bed, lying on a feather mattress with a blanket over him and a goose-down pillow under his head. A myriad of scents danced in his nose. The feathers and the wool of the blanket, the goose roasting, bread and honey cakes baking. One of the Wine Spring Inn's rooms, with unmistakable bright morning light streaming in at the white curtained windows. He fumbled at his side. Unbroken skin met his fingers, but he felt weaker than at any time since being shot. A small enough price, though, and a fair enough exchange. His throat felt parched, too. When he moved, Fail leaped up from a chair beside the small stone fireplace, tossing aside a red blanket and stretching. She had changed to a darker, narrow-skirted riding dress, and wrinkles in the gray silk said she had slept in that chair. Alana said you needed sleep, she said. He reached toward the white pitcher on the small table beside the bed, and she hurriedly poured a cup of water and held it for him to drink. You need to stay right here for another 2 or 3 days, until you have your strength back. The words sounded normal, except for an undercurrent he barely caught. A tightness at the corners of her eyes. What is wrong? She replaced the cup carefully on the bedside table and smoothed her dress. Nothing is wrong. The taut, underlying tone.
Oh shit, hell yeah, Enforcer.
Fail, don't lie to me. I do not lie, she snapped. I will have some breakfast brought up to you, and you're lucky I do that, calling me Fail. He said her name as sternly as he could, and she hesitated, her most arrogant chin-up glare changing to forehead-creasing worry and back again. He met her gaze straight on. She was not going to get away with any fine lady's haughty tricks with him. At last, she sighed. I suppose you have a right to know. But you are still staying in that bed until Alana and I say you can get up. Loyal and Gall are gone. Gone? He blinked in confusion. What do you mean, gone? They left? In a way. The sentry saw them go, this morning, at first light, trotting off into the westwood together. None of them thought anything of it. Certainly none tried to stop them, and Ogier and Aiel. I heard of it less than an hour ago. They were talking about trees, Baron. About how the Ogier sing to trees. Trees, Baron growled. It's that bloody Waygate. Burn me, I told him not to. They'll get themselves killed before they reach it. Throwing off the blanket, he swung his legs over the side of the bed, wobbling to his feet. He had nothing on, he realized, not even his small clothes. But if they expected to keep him caged under a blanket, they were sadly mistaken. He could see everything folded neatly on a tall backed chair by the door, with his boots beside it and his axe hanging from its belt from a peg on the wall. Stumbling to his clothes, he began dressing as quickly as he could. What are you doing? Fail demanded.
Yeah, but that definitely sucks about not driving no more.
One fist on her hip, she pointed commandingly, as if her finger could transport him there. They can't have gotten that far, he told her. Not a foot. Gall won't ride, and Loyal always did claim he trusted his own feet more than any horse. I can catch them up on Stepper by midday latest. Pulling his shirt over his head, he left it hanging loose over his breeches and sat down. Dropped, actually, to draw on his boots. You are mad, Baron. What chance you can even find them in that forest? I'm not so bad at tracking myself. I can find them. He smiled at her, but she was not having any. You can get yourself killed, you hairy fool. Look at you. You could hardly stand. You would fall out of the saddle before you had gone a mile. Hiding the effort involved, he stood and stamped his feet to settle them in his boots. Stepper would do all the work. He only needed to hold on. Nonsense. I'm strong as a horse. Stop trying to bully me. Shrugging into his coat, he snatched up his axe and belt. Fail caught his arm as he opened the door and was pulled along, vainly trying to haul him back. Sometimes you have the brains of a horse, she panted. Less. Perrin, you must listen to me. You must... The room lay only a few steps along the narrow hallway from the stairs leading down to the empty common room, and it was the stairs that betrayed him. When his knee bent to lower him that first step, it kept right on bending. He toppled forward, vainly trying to catch the banister.
Oh shit.
Pulling a yelling
Hell yeah, Enforcer.
Rolling over and over, they tumbled down.
My brother probably
definitely
appreciate that.
The barrel at the bottom, Fail lying stretched full length atop him. The barrel teetered and spun, rattling the sword.
He definitely deserves to
final
catch a
clank.
break every now and then.
It took a moment for Perrin to gather enough breath to speak. Are you all right? He said anxiously. She was sprawled limply on his chest. He shook her gently. Fail, are you... Slowly, she raised her head and brushed a few short strands of dark hair from her face, then stared at him intently. Are you all right? Because if you are, I may very well do something violent to you. Perrin snorted. She was probably hurt less than he. Gingerly, he felt that where the arrow had been, but that was in no worse shape than the rest of him. Of course, the rest of him seemed bruised from head to toe. Get off of me, Fail. I need to fetch Stepper. Instead, she seized his collar with both hands and leaned very close until their noses almost touched. Listen to me, Perrin, she said urgently. You cannot do everything. If Loyal and Gaul have gone to lock the Waygate, you must let them. Your place is here. Even if you were strong enough, and you are not, do you hear me? You are not strong enough. But even if you were, you must not go after them. You cannot do everything. Why, whatever are you two doing? Maren Alvear said. Wiping her hands on her long white apron, she came from the back door of the common room. Her eyebrows looked to be trying to climb into her hair. I expected Trollocs after all. But
I let my brother know, and
she sounded half scandalized and half amused.
He'll take it from
what
there.
They looked like, Perrin realized, with Fail lying on him that way, their heads close together, was a couple playing kissing games.
But yeah, he definitely appreciated it.
Fail's cheeks reddened, and she got up very quickly, dusting her dress. He is as stubborn as a Trolloc, Mistress Alvear. I told him he was too weak to rise. He must go back to his bed immediately. He has to learn he cannot do everything himself, especially when he cannot even walk down a flight of steps. Oh, my dear.
I'm not sure how far we are from you, Enforcer.
The wrong way. Leaning close to the younger woman, she whispered softly, but...
Because we're in New Mexico.
He was an easy little boy to manage most of the time, if you handled him properly. But when you tried to push him, he was as muley as any of the Two Rivers. Men don't really change that much, only grow taller. If you go telling him what he must and mustn't do, he will surely lay his ears back and dig his heels in. Let me show you. Maren turned a beaming smile on him, ignoring his glare. Perrin, don't you think one of my good goose feather mattresses is better than that floor? I'll bring you some of my kidney pie just as soon as we have you tucked in. You must be hungry after no supper last night. Here, why don't you let me help you up? Pushing their hands away, he stood on his own. Well, with the aid of the wall. He thought he might have sprained half the muscles in his body. Muley. He had never been muley in his life. Mistress Alvear, would you have Hugh or Tad saddle Stepper? When you're better, she said, trying to turn him toward the stairs. Don't you think you could do with just a little more rest? Fail took his other arm. Trollocs! The cry from outside came muffled through the walls, echoed by a dozen voices. Trollocs! Trollocs! That needn't concern you today, Mistress Alvear said, firm and soothing at the same time. It made him want to grit his teeth. The Aes Sedai will handle things nicely. In a day or two, we'll have you back on your feet. You will see. My horse, he said, trying to pull free. They had good holds on his coat.
Oh, that's understandable,
All he
Enforcer.
accomplished was swinging them back and forth. For the love of the light, will you stop tugging at
We
me and
definitely
let me get my
understand that
horse?
part, bro.
Let go of me. Looking at his face, Fail sighed and released his arm. Mr. Salvier, will you have his horse saddled and brought around? But, my dear, he really needs... If you please, Mr. Salvier, Fail said firmly.
That
And
definitely
my horse,
sucks you being in the hospital for that many
The
days.
two women looked at each other as if he did not exist. At last, Mr. Salvier nodded. Perrin frowned at her back as she hurried across the common room and vanished toward the kitchen and the stable. What had Fail said different from what he had? Turning his attention to her, he said, "Why did you change your mind?" Tucking his shirt in for him, she muttered under her breath. Doubtless, he was not supposed to hear well enough to understand. "I mustn't say must I? When he is too stubborn to see straight, I must lead him with honey and smiles, must I?" She shot him a glare that surely had no honey in it, then abruptly changed to a smile so sweet he very nearly backed away. "My dear heart," she almost cooed, pulling his coat straight. "Whatever is happening out there, I do hope you will stay in your saddle.
It's already after
And
2,
as well
huh?
from Trollocs as you can. You
Well, I'm
really
probably
are
gonna
not facing a Trolloc just yet.
call into this life for right now, everyone.
Please remember
I
you
didn't
are a
realize it
general, a
was
leader,
after 2
and every
already.
bit as much a symbol to your people as
But,
that banner out there. If you are up where people can see you, it will
Hopefully,
let everyone
I can get the cash together to do the actual paid version of StreamYards, but this is gonna be oh shit. Hell yeah, Enforcer. Cause I'm out of, this is my last time I have on my free the free version of StreamYards. It doesn't restart till the end of the month, so I might not be on for a little bit. But I'll definitely be doing some game streaming. But I don't think everyone was stopping by, and everyone keeps stopping by and chilling with me. Till next time, everyone. Y'all stay safe out there.